got about 24 of the Fortune 500 as customers today. So think of Coca-Cola and Ernst & Young and Accenture. And essentially, we help them to automate a lot of the manual processes that we have. And we do that through licensing on a SaaS basis, our digital ledger low-code application platform. And this particular platform is designed to help companies to exchange information and get to decisions faster. So what does that mean? Well, what it means is that if you walk into any large company today, they've spent a lot of money on big systems of record like Oracle and SAP and Salesforce.com. But yet, when you peel the onion back, most of these companies are still doing a tremendous amount of work in Microsoft Excel. And the reason that they do that is because there's no other place for them to be able to go and grab the data from the different places that where the data sits throughout the organization and try and aggregate it into an environment that allows them to make sense of what's happening with the data. So as Tina just described, as Adelaide was putting this conference together, you will see that there's an issue with regard to managing all of that information and keeping everybody on the same track and path. So this is what Boardwalk does. So again, we're headquartered in Silicon Valley. We've got an office in India and an operation there. Again, a SaaS model. 63% of our revenue comes from multi-year annual recurring licenses since 2018. And we've got a pipeline that is growing today in excess of $8 million. We're really starting to see an uptick in both demand and business. We also, as you kind of take a look at the financial history of the company, 85% plus gross margins, big improvement over the past fiscal year. Our fiscal year ends today, by the way. Big improvement with regard to net income. And very pleased to state that in the beginning of February, we closed both a brokered deal in Canada and a non-brokered side-by-side deal in the US, raising a little over $11 million Canadian. And with some of those funds, not only were we able to now pay off a term loan that we had in place, but provide a lot of dry powder, if you will, for kind of our go-forward plans into the future. So exactly what is the platform that Boardwalk sells? So we have this low-code application platform that enables parties to work at the same time on the same data. And essentially, there's a single version of the truth that we set up that allows you to be able to connect from your local Excel, from a browser, or from a mobile environment into the server that we license to large companies and that we run on their behalf. And that server acts as the single version of the truth, providing you a point and a place where you can manage this information. So as an example, we have customers such as Apple. And Apple utilizes Boardwalk to be able to communicate with some of their suppliers. So imagine if you're a product manager, you're trying to understand pricing or forecasting for a particular component in an iPhone, and you're needing to communicate with 30 different suppliers. In the old days, you'd be bouncing spreadsheets around. In the new day, with Boardwalk, you're actually utilizing the Boardwalk patented digital ledger to be able to manage that information. So what exactly does kind of the old world look like and the new world look like with regard to Boardwalk? So on the left-hand side here, you will see that this is what I was talking about a typical company. It's just fascinating for us when we walk into these large companies that after they spend all of this money on this big fancy software, that they're still effectively running the company on spreadsheets. And typically you'll have a senior director or a VP that'll have a weekly meeting. They get 10 or 12 people in the room and they'll say, how are we doing? What are we going to do for next week? What's happening? Give me the data. And instead of pulling up, a big system of record like Oracle, they basically pull up a spreadsheet and they look at the spreadsheet and they're making $100 million decisions off of that spreadsheet, but yet we don't have any idea in these spreadsheets what the last version was, who made the last change, if the formulas are correct, all of the things that we kind of call messy fruit salad as you're trying to manage all of these spreadsheets. And let me tell you that we believe that these spreadsheets within the enterprise is kind of the last mile of digital improvement within these companies. These companies have spent a tremendous amount of money on their core systems of record, and this is really the last piece that companies need to kind of take care of to move this manual method of managing data into a digital environment. And the way that they do that is they do that on the Boardwalk Digital Ledger platform. So we take this spreadsheet or these series of spreadsheets, we turn them into a single version of the truth. Party A can then come in from their copy of the spreadsheet on their desktop, make a change, and when they make a change, they would submit the transaction into the Boardwalk Digital Ledger. Party B says, oh, there's a new update to the spreadsheet. They would log in, they would refresh, they would see the change come into their spreadsheet. And what we've done is we've created this communication and collaboration environment that allows everybody to be on the same page, see the same data. And through the transaction chaining that we have, we actually can see for the first time every single transaction ever made between the parties and look at the complete historical record of something. So if someone changed something, on January 1st, and it's now March 31st, and you want to go back and look at the 30 changes that have happened between January 1st and March 31st, you can absolutely see who made the change, the date, the time, and any comments against the change. This is big value. And we've got, again, several patents. We've got 5 more, I think, that are pending, all driving this very unique technology that allows us differently than anyone else to manage this data in this digital ledger environment. So what does this mean for an organization? Like, why are they excited about this? Well, first of all, when you're manually moving data around, it's prone to all kinds of errors. And so the ability to collaborate in a real-time environment, especially in this remote world that we're now in with the COVID, is very important. It's also an efficiency tool that allows you to be able to reduce costs and speed up the information exchange. And that speed up of the information exchange allows you to be able to make decisions faster. So the enterprise can say, oh, we're going to be out of inventory of this product, and we wouldn't have known that unless we were sharing all this information together. Why don't we put in a special order so we don't run out of product? And therefore, we're going to see more sales, better margin, and improved customer support. So the problem within the enterprise is that about 80% of all of the data that's being managed today is all of this unstructured data like spreadsheets. And it continues to be a real big problem in the enterprise. You know that 90% of all of the data in existence in an enterprise was created in the last 2 years. I mean, that is astounding. And all of that data is not sitting in a structured environment. It's all unstructured. It's emails, it's PDF files, it's Word documents, it's PowerPoint presentations, it's tweets. It's all of the stuff that everybody is struggling with, which is, how do I get control of this data? How do I manage this data so that I can get to decisions faster? And that's what Boardwalk is about. So you look at the typical kind of unstructured data environment. We've got PDFs, HTML, Word, and spreadsheets. And of course, a lot of this unstructured data happen to be spreadsheets. And it's pretty easy when we walk into a large organization and say, so we know you spent all this money on these big transactional systems of record, but we bet you're getting a lot of work done in Microsoft Excel. And everybody says, yep, Excel runs our organization. And we say, let us show you how we can create this environment on the Boardwalk Digital Ledger platform that allows you to finally take control of all of that unstructured data, including Excel. So the way that we fit into the enterprise is that we can connect into, through an integration framework, all of the structured data that's sitting in Oracle or SAP or Salesforce.com. And we believe that we're just as important from a technology stack or solution environment than all of these applications and solutions combined. So we kind of sit next to them, we connect into these systems of record, and then we work with the organization to basically say, let's go work on that first application or first process where you're emailing spreadsheets around with 50 people, and let us show you how in a matter of weeks we can transform that spreadsheet into a structured environment on the Boardwalk Digital Ledger and allow you to be able to not only combine that data with the structured information, but also allow you to be able to make sense and make decisions faster. So it allows you to be able to search, organize, and manage all of that structured and unstructured data. And that's done on a low-code platform without the need of creating a SQL database. So for those of you that are kind of geeky out there, the ability for us to pull this data in a single schema environment without having to transform the data or put it into SQL is a huge differentiator for us. And then, of course, you can visualize the information in the Boardwalk Digital Ledger through Excel, through a browser, or through a mobile environment. So the centralized digital ledger platform to manage all of this enterprise data is, very valuable and allows you to be able to, again, increase revenue, improve customer satisfaction, and really get to the value proposition that these companies so sorely need to solve. And we think that in each organization, while there probably are hundreds of these spreadsheet processes that are mission critical, we think that about 100 of these applications need to be converted over into the Boardwalk environment and kind of aggregated together. And so we charge not only an annual fee for someone to have the service and be on our platform to be able to automate these spreadsheet processes, but then we also charge a fee on an annual recurring basis for each application that then gets loaded onto the enterprise server that we license to them. So some of our customers today, we're really proud of this customer list. And one of the things as investors that people look at is they say, gee, Andy, you guys have got some great global Fortune 500 clients. And when you're selling into the enterprise, it can be tough, and it's a long sales cycle. And we've been able to not only shorten that sales cycle significantly, but when you look at some of the customers that we have on here, they've been with us for a while, and they're awfully great customers. A couple of examples: Ernst & Young today, they've licensed our technology, and they use us in their tax technology business. So when you think about, or their tax technology platform. So when you think about when someone comes in and they do a tax return for a large organization or an audit, guess what they use to collect all of the data? Spreadsheets, right? Those are work papers. And by automating the collection and having that historical record from a compliance standpoint of how information has changed in those work papers and in those spreadsheets, is a very important part of EY's value proposition for their tax customers. We have companies like Mars, who we're working on for trade promotion and all kinds of other things within their organization. Terrific company. We signed a contract with the Defense Logistics Agency about 6 months ago, and we're working on a project for food track and trace on our Boardwalk Digital Ledger for food that is distributed to all of the military installations outside of the United States. So again, just a terrific example of the use of the Boardwalk Digital Ledger to automate information and have the historical reference from a compliance standpoint of what's happening and how information is shared. So some of the technology solutions that we deliver to our clients. So of course, because spreadsheets are used in financial planning and analysis, we do a lot of that work. So think of annual planning, think of all of the work that's done outside of your financial solutions where information gets dumped to these spreadsheets, and before they're emailed around, and now they're managed automatically in Boardwalk. Supply chain management is a really big deal. We, for the first time, interestingly enough, we have Verizon that is utilizing the Boardwalk platform for multiple applications throughout Verizon. We have a land and expand strategy that I'll explain in a moment. But one of the neat things is that Verizon utilizes our platform to connect to some of their suppliers like Apple. And so as they're working on fulfillment and making sure that they've got the right product at the right place at the right time in the right location, that they're actually communicating with Apple over the Boardwalk platform to be able to exchange information around supply chain management. Coca-Cola, trade spend and procurement management. So you think about their large customer that Coca-Cola has, like a Walmart, and all of the planning that has to be done around, okay, next week, we're going to put on special, Diet Coke, and if you buy 3, you get 1 free. And through that, Coke's going to give Walmart a discount for this particular geography, for this particular product, if they put the Diet Coke on an end cap at a certain number of stores and hit certain sales minimums. All of that stuff, which is really complicated and really messy, was done on spreadsheets. It's now done utilizing the Boardwalk Digital Ledger, which, by the way, has the complete historical record of everything that's happened. So we've got some case studies in our deck. I won't spend too much time on these case studies, but from a land and expand strategy, when we get into a company, we look across all of the spreadsheet processes that they have, and we say, gee, you've got an application or a process for seasonal planning and production planning and product order generation, and all of these are separate processes that are run where before they were emailing these spreadsheets around. And we come in, we set up a full solution, and we say, let's go knock off each one of these separately and connect all of this stuff into the Boardwalk Digital Ledger so that you've got better visibility, better collaboration on managing your data. So this particular client, the items that are shown here in blue, we've already implemented and they're up and running. And that's delivered a 5x ROI and about a $1.3 million savings for this particular company. In a land and expand strategy, we now are going to the next application, which would be raw material planning. Let's go knock that off. Let's go knock off demand planning. And we work with them and their unique data requirements to be able to rapidly deliver each one of these applications. This use case was for Semiconductor, a great customer of ours in Arizona. They obviously build semiconductors. And we've had them as a customer for a while. We've got 3 or 4 processes that are up and running for them. The most recent one that we delivered for them is a response to RFP RFQs. So they get in about 25 RFP RFQs a day. It was taking them about 7 days on average to respond to an RFP RFQ. These RFP RFQs come in, they're very complicated. They've got a big, what's called BOM. Off of the BOM, they've got to go through each component and look and say, how much will we charge for that? What's our margin? How soon can we actually deliver this particular product? What's our manufacturing schedule? What's our line schedule? And all of that was being done in spreadsheets. We automated it on the Boardwalk Digital Ledger. We were able to reduce the RFP RFQ response time down to approximately 2 days. That increased sales conversion by 15 to 20% because the faster you can respond, the quicker you can actually, or the higher probability you have of closing a particular deal. And so if you can reduce the average response time from 7 days to 2, you're going to see increased sales conversion by 15 to 20%, and therefore seeing not only an increase in sales, which is an ancillary value of the Boardwalk platform, but also a $1.8 million first year savings and a 6x ROI. Financial highlights of the company, we're all about SaaS recurring revenue. We currently are going into next fiscal year with between 3.5, 3.8 of recurring revenue already on the books. Again, a big EBITDA improvement over last year, and I think you'll continue to see that. We are tracking to being profitable within the next 1 to 2 quarters. We also have got this pipeline of 8 million that continues to grow, and a gross margin of in excess of 85%. The land and expand strategy, very important to Boardwalk. When we get in, we'll normally start with a price point, around 100 to 150,000. That's the first application, and then from there we start to build. We recently closed a deal in November for a large cosmetics company based out of New York. The first application that we built for them that was a little more than 100,000 was for packaging, managing their packaging and material planning, because when you sell tens of thousands of products into these different geographies, you've got all this messy fruit salad around labeling and packaging. Not only did we get that project done in 6 weeks, start to finish, which will show them a great ROI, but we now are on to our second project that, again, is another $125,000. And so as we get into these companies, remember I talked about where we think we've got about 100 of these applications that need to be converted. We start with the first one and we just start knocking them off, and one by one by one. So it's a land and expand. When we get in, we create this trusted relationship. We build that relationship with the company, and then they come back to us and say, gee, we could use Boardwalk over here and over here and over here, and then we're off to the races. And that's exactly what we like to do. Very low attrition rate, by the way, on our customers. Once we get in, it's sticky, and it provides for terrific growth from a recurring license revenue model. Our capital structure here, again, I think I said that we did this financing back at the end of January, November. Our cash balance today, we're Canadian traded, so about 3.9 million. So we've got plenty of runway. Again, we'll be profitable in a quarter or two. We've got zero debt on the balance sheet, and we're really proud of kind of what we've been able to execute over the last couple of quarters, and not only getting the financing done, getting to very close to being EBITDA positive, but also getting this debt paid off. We think it makes a huge difference and should make a huge difference in the marketplace. Executive team. This is my 5th company that I've done in Silicon Valley as CEO. It's invigorating. It's great. 3 of my companies, we've had a really good exit. One didn't make it. You learn a heck of a lot from the one that didn't make it, as opposed to the ones that do, or that do make it. But the net is executive team. We're all senior guys. We're not 24-year-old, MBAs. We've been around for a long time. We know what we're doing, and a lot of history with regard to enterprise sales. So again, we believe that Boardwalk provides a very unique investment opportunity. We have this patented, sustainable, competitive platform solution that is very SaaS focused. We are really seeing a large increase in enterprises that are actively seeking to solve this problem, which is unstructured data, manual information exchange, utilizing spreadsheets. And with our very unique technology, we believe that we've got a kind of a corner on the market for being able to solve this problem rapidly. Our solution's very sticky. Again, the recurring revenue is what we're all about. I wake up in the morning and think nothing other than how do we increase that recurring revenue line. We've got this growing pipeline, great margins, and significant operational leverage. So that is the end of my presentation. I know that there's been some questions come in, and I think we've got 4 or 5 minutes to answer some of the questions.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. That was great. Couple questions from the audience. I think we talked about the uniqueness of the platform already, but can you get into the specifics about what's unique about your platform and some of the potential barriers to entry for competitors?
Yeah, sure, Tina. Thanks. Good. That's a great question. So look, when you're looking at trying to automate manual processes and do transformation in the enterprise, there's a bunch of ways that you can do it. I mean, you can hire, 20 guys in India and have them go off and build something from scratch. But that takes a long time, and it's very complicated. There's also a lot of kind of these no-code, low-code platforms out there that use a browser as a user interface But what you have to do is you have to take this complex spreadsheet where people have matured their data over 5 years or 6 years that might have 1,000 formulas in it. And if you're going to move that over to a server-based environment, you got to rewrite all those formulas in the form of code. And not only the time associated with that, but the maintenance of that going forward. Most of the time, the users push back and go, oh, heck no, I'm not going there. I want to keep my spreadsheet. So what we offer is this unique ability for them to, in a very rapid time frame, move their spreadsheet onto the Boardwalk Digital Ledger, keep the value of using Excel, but turn it into an enterprise application with all of the compliance and security that's required these days for managing information.
Given the uniqueness of this technology, I mean, you mentioned Verizon and Coca-Cola are working with Walmarts and Apples of the world. Are you able to, obviously they are familiar with the technology through working with these companies. Are you able to start discussions with some of those companies as well?
Oh, sure. I mean, one of the greatest things is to be able to leverage off of an existing happy customer where they say, hey, we'd really like to connect in with this large company. We're already seeing that. So there's a viral component of Boardwalk that is really kind of, it's really neat. And it's actually quite satisfying to get a call from, a large company that says, hey, we're connected to you through our relationship with Coca-Cola, but we really would like to start to use your technology in other areas of our organization. And that is value.
Definitely. And so how many applications do you think the normal enterprise has that would be a good candidate for transformation to the Boardwalk platform?
Yeah, so we think that most organizations will have or do have hundreds of applications. We can't go in and basically, eat the elephant all at once. So you've got to start with where does it hurt the most? Where can we provide the most value? And then we literally go in and we start and we knock off these applications one by one. We think in the big picture that there's at least 10 immediate areas where we could provide value to these large organizations. And so when you kind of do the math and say each one of those applications maybe would generate somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000 a year in recurring revenue for Boardwalk, we knock off 10. We've got kind of $1 million a year of recurring revenue coming from those organizations. We can get to, call it 100 or 200 of those large organizations where not only are we landing and expanding, but we're also driving that kind of revenue. We really are going to see quite a valuable enterprise here in Boardwalk.
Yeah, I think for large enterprises in particular, I mean, I think for Adelaide as a small company, it's difficult to keep track. I can't imagine with that a number of hundreds of employees involved, how challenging that would be. I'd like to just ask some audience questions. Can you elaborate on network of words?
Sure. So the network of words is a way in which we manage information with regard to this unstructured data. So part of the uniqueness of Boardwalk, and again, I don't want to get too technical, but we're the only company that manages data at the atomic unit level, or the cell of a spreadsheet, or the word in a document. And each cell in a spreadsheet or word in a document has a unique identifier. That unique identifier stays with it forever. Again, this is very unique. Most information systems manage data either by a row or column. We manage it at that unique identifier. And that allows us to be able to create the magic of the network of words to be able to solve the problem of how do you manage all of this unstructured data and turn it into an understandable environment.
Great. Okay, well, let's get to one final question. Can you talk about the bank prospect advancement at all?
Sure. So we, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency in the fourth quarter issued a press release where they fined Citibank $400 million for issues with regard to compliance. There happens to be a large number of what's called user-defined applications or spreadsheets that are running through Citibank and every bank that's out there. And the OCC has basically said, we really want you to get those spreadsheets into compliance. So we are being considered by many of these large banks as a method of being able to solve that problem. And we're continuing to march toward what we hope will be a wonderful market and new entry into these banks and financial institutions with the Boardwalk Digital Ledger platform.
That's great. That's obviously a huge opportunity amongst a number of opportunities that Boardwalktech has. So thank you for the presentation and appreciate you being here.
Great, Tina. Thank you for having me.